like to, really extend my warmest greetings to everybody in this first of probably very many podcasts for Zevo Academy. And the subject for this particular podcast is, or webinar, is property management, SEO, and content creation in 2021. It's a long title, but I'm sure that we'll get through a lot of the aspects of it. When if you're just coming in, or if you're here, drop us a message in the chat. Let us know where you're from. Also, a big shout out to the Zevo Academy people in the back end that are going to be looking at the chat box and keeping us on schedule, hopefully. I'd also like to introduce our guests for this evening as well. I'm David Jenner. I'm acting as the host. I'd like to thank Zevo Academy for inviting me to be here. We also have Damien. He's the Book Direct Network. Is that correct? Yeah, that's it. And you're located in Spain, is that right?
I am, yeah. I was, as I said, once located in Brighton as well, but yeah, now moved down to Spain. And I've been solidly here for nearly exactly a year in lockdown. So yeah, I haven't moved anywhere.
Well, I'm sorry about the lockdown, but I can tell you from us here that are in the UK, we're very envious of you being in Spain and the weather that you get to deal with there. So we also have Neely Khan, who's from Neely there. I love that, Neely. Thank you very much for being here tonight.
Great. And that was the same, actually. This is good.
And you're also in the UK?
Yes, I'm from sunny Birmingham.
Oh, sunny Birmingham. Excellent. Well done. And last but certainly not least is Mark System from Bosley Academy.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I'm also in Spain, even though my accent doesn't speak to it.
Well, I'm in the UK, even though my accent doesn't place me here either. So I reckon it's going to be a bit of a questions and comments session. So I think one of the biggest things, and I think probably for our listeners and the people that are going to be watching this, if we try not to be too overly technical about things, we try to keep it on a user-friendly kind of vibe, if you will. I'm sure that things will get a bit technical with some of the aspects that we may have to explain a little bit to the friends that are watching this. But Mark, let's start with you. As far as value property goes, how do you see SEO bringing value to a direct booking website?
So, I think the best way to explain it, and in simple terms as possible, is that when you have a website, and a website that is generating traffic through good search engine optimization, then you are doing what a lot of people fail to do, and that's where you are truly building your house on your own land. So one of the tricky things with marketing is that you have to rely on so many other people's businesses and channels to bring business to you. And we can talk about OTAs, social media, whatever you're going to talk about, but when you've got a website that's got a good solid SEO foundation, and that means that you are ranking well and you're visible on Google and people can find you and people are visiting you, then you've already done half the battle. Then you've got to convince someone to come and book with you, but it's the start and the end of everything, really. And those businesses that do this well, those are the ones that you go into any forum or any group or ask them a question, you talk about direct bookings. We're all about the direct bookings here, and those are the ones that are just saying, yeah, it's fine, it's good, because it's a consistent thing. When you put a post out on social media, it's probably prevalent for about 15 minutes, and then people will forget about it. With a good SEO and a good website, it's evergreen and it stays forever. So that's the best way that I can describe it in most simple terms of the importance of talking about a topic like this, which, you say SEO to most people and they roll their eyes and they go, oh, I'm sure Damien has this because this is literally his job, with SEO. And it's like, oh, well, but it is a really important topic. It's like the reason why this conversation is good, and we've got such amazing people like Neely and Damien talking about this, is that we can put it into terms that's easy to understand and it's actionable as well, of things that people can be doing like today to get started.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Neely, Mark brought up a couple of really good points. One, just for the people that might not really understand the kind of the terminology SEO and exactly what that is, you know, could you just give us a quick overview of what SEO is, what it stands for? And also, he brought up another really good point that if you don't mind commenting on, the term evergreen.
Yeah. So SEO in layman's terms is the practice of generating quality and quantity traffic towards a business website. So I think it's definitely over intellectualized in sort of our industry, where it does become sort of a little bit scary, and people think that, you know, it's super duper technical and you need to learn, you need to read like 1,000 books about it and know all of these sort of acronyms and things like that. It's quite enigmatic, but which it is. Obviously there is a lot of technicality involved, but at the very core of it, it's all about attracting traffic to your website, which I'm sure Damien again will elaborate upon. So that's what it is. I think a lot of people talk about generating traffic to your short-term rental website, which obviously is super duper important. But I think another side that's really worth discussing and exploring is the fact that then how do you then maintain interest once those visitors land on your website, because that's an important SEO practice too. So that's just another comment I'd make on that. In terms of sorry, what was your second point? I've completely
it was the term evergreen that Mark used. Yeah.
So I think yeah, that's really important. I think especially when it comes to content creation, so SEO friendly content. If you do it in the correct way, then I think timeliness is really important when you're creating content. So when you're creating a piece of content, it's really important to know which topic is relevant at the time, but then also ensure that it's still evergreen. So it's something that people will return to in, you know, 5 or 10 years time, but also, you know, ensuring that it's timely for that specific period. So for example, right now, what's incredibly relevant is obviously the effects of the pandemic in the short-term rental industry, but then it's all about creating content that people will still find useful in 10 or 15 years time. So I think, yeah, I think that's super important as well. Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. Really, really good explanation. And SEO, of course, stands for search engine optimization. So these are the organic listings that we see when we do a keyword search within Chrome or Firefox or one of the search browsers. And of course, evergreen, you know, as the name would promote, is content that's going to have a very long shelf life. Damien, your turn to be picked on here. From an SEO standpoint, what do you think are the most important boxes to tick off for somebody? So I really don't know what I'm doing. Let's say I've just, you know, started up a WordPress site. I'm looking to I'm looking to promote some of my properties. What would be a good kind of beginner's checklist for me to look at for implementing a basic SEO strategy?
Ooh, it's pretty tough.
It's a trick question, isn't it? Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, I think one of the core foundations of SEO is some good keyword research to essentially know what your users and what your prospective clients are looking for on search engines like Google. So carrying out some extensive keyword research. Now, it's not, you don't have to rely on those keywords, you know, verbatim throughout your text. SEO has got a lot more sophisticated than that, and it can't be manipulated as such. But certainly knowing what your clients are looking for, and not even just for things like, you know, holiday rental in Brighton. You know, there are several long-tailed keywords that you can be looking for, and these are phrases that are, you know, a little bit out of the box, that people might be looking for, things like pet-friendly properties, things like groups, family holidays. I mean, it's almost infinite the amount of things you can potentially, you know, prepare your website content for. So I think that is one starting point. I mean, for example, if you had a WordPress site, which is predominantly what I work with my clients, I think a nice, easy starting point is using the Yoast plugin, which I'm sure all you guys are fully aware of. it's a nice, easy starting point to get your title tags right, to look at just the generation of your kind of essential SEO on page. And I don't go too crazy by trying to get your green light or anything like that, but just to help you out that little bit is a good starting point. But look, oh God, I could talk all day here. It's very hard to know where to start. But that's
down to a very basic level, yeah.
That's very basic, yeah.
It's really good. And just for the people that don't know, Yoast is a free plugin. It comes in a free version, or you can buy the more advanced version of it. But as Damien said, the Yoast plugin is a great starting point. It'll help guide you through it. It's color coordinated. Either you're in the green or you're in the yellow or the red, you know. So it's a really good. And there are other tools as well too that are free that people can utilize for keyword research. It just a very simple search through Google will uncover, you know, a lot of pretty good and pretty decent free keyword, you know, tools.
I'm happy to give a couple just as we're talking about that, David.
Yeah, great. That's great.
Really simple Google tools that are available to anyone apart from a search is little things like the autocomplete. So when you start to type in a location, find out what people are actually searching for. Searches related to at the bottom that a lot of people kind of automatically don't think of using. Really useful. What else? There's a tool called Answer the Public. My goodness, I use it all the time, and I lost it. Answer the Public, a brilliant tool to find out what people are searching for given certain seed terms. What else? People also asked for, there's so many things for Google alone that are all free as well. Uber Suggest, Neil Patel gets a kicking from SEOs, but it's a really useful product. So yeah, there's loads of free things out there, and without having to sign up to something like SEMrush, which SEOs may do, which is going to cost you, you know, several £1,000s. Keep it simple.
That's really good advice, and I couldn't agree more. I think there's a lot of really good free tools out there for us to get going with it. And I think you're absolutely right. You know, the search box within Google in Chrome is a great research tool for looking at long-tailed keywords or related type searches. And then you scroll down to the bottom and you have the top selected ones there as well. So Mark, while we're on keywords, if we're looking at content, first of all, you know, we remember hearing this term in the SEO world, you know, that content is king. Do you still think that's true nowadays?
Yeah, 100%. But I think what everybody's got to realize is, while we're talking all these amazing things and giving all these really cool tools, I mean, we've got 18 people minus was 14 people in here, minus the Zevu people. So we've got 12 people in here, and you've all been watching this and listening to this live with us now. And it's very tempting to go away and do all of the searches and do all of the things, but you've got to know one thing. You've got to know who you're writing for, which is so important. You know, and I think everybody in this room will know what we're talking about here. When we say you've got to be writing to your ideal guest, you know, there's a term called customer avatar that gets bounced around so many times. But that is really important, because if you don't know who you're writing to, then it's going to make your life so much harder. So if you want an easier life, know specifically who you're going to be writing for and searching for. And it all boils down to who your ideal guest is. So you're all based in different locations. You know, all your properties are based all over the world, different areas, different niches. Your property may be designed better for other target audiences than others. So if you can nail that first, then it makes your world and your life so much easier. And Neely will attribute to this with like how the amazing writing that she does. So that's the first thing that I think anybody should do. You've got to nail down your customer avatar. Your ideal guest. If you could just basically envision the ideal person that you want to walk through your doors to stay in your properties, and you just reverse engineer it from there. And yeah, you have to go and label some things, and you have to be very specific who that may be. But once you get that sorted, then the words that you put on the website, the first thing that somebody sees when they land on your page is going to be crucial to that. And when you say content is king, Alan Egan said this once, and it's always stuck in my mind, is you've got to make your website sticky. So when somebody lands on your website, when somebody lands on your blog or your page, you've got to make it sticky so they stick around. And it's so true. And that's the whole point of a website. If you want the most simplest version of getting higher in the SEO and ranking and all of that, if you can get someone to stick around on your website for longer than what anybody else is sticking around on any other website in and around your niche or your location, then Google will reward you. It's like we talk about SEO, it's like any algorithm out there, Facebook, Instagram, you name it. The longer you can get somebody to stick around on your platform, your page, your website, we can even go to the OTAs, the more that these channels will reward you by giving you a bump in the ranking. So all you've got to do is, number one, make sure that you don't appeal to everybody, because you appeal to nobody. So really focus down on your niche, and then create the content, create the words that will appeal and speak to them. That's how I would answer.
That's an excellent point. And I think we could probably hold a whole nother webinar on this, this aspect of, of user experience, of the stickiness of a website, of making sure that, so many people, that I've dealt with in the past, they would view their website simply as a brochure. And I tried to explain to them, look, your website's got to be your number one salesperson, your number one PR person, your number one lead generation person, and it's not going to do it by one static page of people and then bouncing off again. So that's a huge subject, but that's exactly right. And when we're writing content, we have to be fully aware of that. Who's our ideal guest? Neely, when you sit down to write content, what kind of goes through your mind? What's the process that you use to create a good piece of content?
So that would depend, first of all, on what kind of content it is. So if we take website content, for example, or even blog content, because we're discussing SEO, I think first and foremost, the most important thing, like Mark has explained so well, is first of all figuring out who it is that you're writing for. A lot of people say when it comes to SEO writing or just content writing in general that don't write for algorithms, write for people. So that's hugely important. So whilst it's really important to, be very aware of the technicalities of your writing, because it is all about a balance. You need to understand the technical aspects of writing and choosing the correct words, and understanding which words perform better on websites and which words convert. But it's all about creating the balance and making sure that actually the words, the content that you write still flows beautifully. So one way of doing that, obviously, the first thing you would do is understand your ideal clients. Write not necessarily in your own voice, because this is advice that, again, I hear quite often. People who often struggle with content writing, the first bit of advice they'll receive is just write how you talk, which is not something I 100% agree with. I think you should write how your clients talk, how your guests speak. Really understand the language that they're using. Use their questions that they're asking because you've done your research, and embed that into your copy. So research is first and foremost. I mean, I say to people that I'm a content writer, copywriter, but actually I write about 40% of the time. 60% of my time is spent on research and understanding what it is that I'm writing and structuring things properly. So research and planning. So really figuring out what the structure of your copy and your content is going to look like. Obviously, that's more relevant if you're doing something like a long form blog post. So things like structure and planning is key there. I think even if you're writing something as little or as short as a property description, if you really want to stand out from the crowd and you want to give it an edge, it's very important to have some kind of a plan in place. Then obviously comes the copywriting, the content writing aspect of it. And I think after that, something that we often forget about because of a lack of time or a lack of knowledge is reviewing what we've written and testing it to see how it performs, and really analyzing that data. So if something's not working, figuring out why it's not working. Maybe it's just a case of tweaking a few words around. Maybe it's just a case of changing the structure of a sentence. So very much a balance between technical and sort of creative writing, and I think that's where you get your sweet spot. So that's how I would generally approach it.
And you talked a little bit about testing the content. What tools do you use to kind of to verify or to to guide you with this when the content's live?
So in my line of work, because I predominantly do content writing and copywriting, usually how it works is, because the other thing that I think is really important to understand is when you hire a copywriter or a content writer, you expect them to have obviously knowledge of SEO and how to create SEO friendly copy. But when you work then with SEO experts and people who analyze the data for you, what happens is then they sort of use the tools to analyze the data themselves. So I know that's not really answering your question, but that's generally how we work. So we create the copy, and then it's sort of sent off, and then we sort of receive the results. And if it's not working, then we take a look at why it's not working. Yeah, and that's generally how we do it.
Great, and I think it's worth noting for some of us that have been around this the SEO industry for a while. Over the past couple of years, we can see quite clearly that that writing content, as we're discussing, that Neely and Mark kind of touched on, it doesn't necessarily have to be stuffed with keywords. Of course, that's bad practice. But you can actually legitimately rank for a keyword that you're focused on without even mentioning that keyword in a well-written article. I see it time and time again under search, people that are, and also things that I'm dealing with that are ranking very well for keywords that I'm interested in, but haven't been mentioned, just alluded to or danced around in the content.
I think it's called, and I did read something about it, black hat and white hat SEO. So when you create content that...
Sorry, just for the people that might not understand, what's the difference between white hat and black hat? What are we talking about here?
So for example, it's what you alluded to, when you create copy that's stuffed with keywords, that is what we would call black hat, I think. And so the benefits of that are very short term. So you might rank higher on search results because it's stuffed with keywords. But obviously, because it's stuffed with keywords, that really affects the quality of the actual writing and how it's read. So yes, you'll generate traffic and people will click on the heading and land on your website. But actually, when they read your content, they won't feel particularly inspired, or they won't feel particularly convinced to actually take action to either book with you or to find out more information. So it's very short-term benefits. Obviously, something like white hat SEO is when you actually put the right practices into place. So you're not keyword stuffing, like you said. You're thinking of the relevant keywords and you're thinking of the relevant questions, but you're also creating copy that flows and that reads in a way that a 7-year-old or a 9-year-old would understand. And then, although that takes longer, the benefits of that take longer. It's long-term gain, long-term benefits.
Excellent.
If I could just add to that, David, yeah, I mean,
Please do.
A lot of this comes down to manipulation, and if you're trying to manipulate the systems, and as much as that includes keyword stuffing, and for those who don't know, that's just literally getting your keywords, Brighton holiday rental in, and just absolutely hammering the page with that. And there are other ways of cheating the system, and they can include many things, but one of the most prevalent is link building and link farms, and just getting paid for links or being part of groups that share links in manipulative ways. And these, whilst they can work very quickly and can get you to the top of Google very quickly, you can be penalized. And I've seen clients be penalized for years for prescribing to these practices. So it really is a no-go. Don't try and cheat the system. You will you will fail. So just do the right thing, and as Mark has alluded to before, write for your customer. And with the likes of Neely's kind of creation, make sure you do it well. You have not just huge blocks of text, nice creative short paragraphs of 2, maybe 3 sentences, nice headers, which I would always say should be including kind of some synonyms of your keywords, and lots of images, just to make it as easy as possible for your user to read. Because really, in all honesty, they're not going to read it. They're probably going to skim it at best. So you want them to take out those key points and get them to click on that call to action button.
So there's a couple of really good points that you made there, Damien. One is the structure, the H tags. So anybody that's familiar with building a site, or even using Microsoft Word, you can tag, heading tag, primary, secondary, third, fourth, all the way down. How important is it to make sure that that structure is quite coherent, Damien?
I think it's for two reasons. One is for your SEO value. Search engines do like that structure in place on a page, where you've got your H1 header at the top and H2, H3 as you go down, and they include some kind of structure to your page, and they lead into your paragraph underneath. So I think it's important in that way, but probably even as importantly, it makes it easier for your user to engage with, and to read, and just to get the most out of in terms of that overall user experience. Because otherwise, I mean, who wants to read a huge block of text? No one. They're going to leave your site straight away because it's boring.
Okay, so I'm going to come back to you, Damien, and we're going to talk about link building and links and what's up with that. But I'm just going to go right down the road here. Neely, if I'm developing a page, a single property page, how many words, what should be about the word count that I should shoot for with content? Is there such a thing that we should look at a certain word count for a page, for a page like that?
I think this is like the great debate, because it's such a common question, not even just for property descriptions, but for any kind of content on a website. And it's the most common question that I get, like, how long should my piece of content be? I think first and foremost, when it comes to something like property descriptions, if a guest has reached the point where they're actually reading the property description on your website, then you know they're in a place where they're interested in booking with you, or they're either comparing it to maybe another short-term rental accommodation provider. So I think in terms of length, I wouldn't get too fixated on, oh my goodness, this has to be 200 words, 300 words, which is around the average, I would say. Have some kind of an idea in mind, but really focus on getting the important parts and the parts that you think make your property stand out at the beginning of your property description. Ensure that it's written in such a way where it's in line with the rest of your website content. Ensure that you're hitting the specific pain points of your guests at the top of that property description. For example, if you know that you're likely to get more office workers, professionals basically, booking into your properties, then make things like the Wi-Fi and the fact that it's easy to work from, put that, place that, be strategic about where you put certain features. This is really important too. Don't just follow sort of templated property descriptions. And if you do that properly, actually, then the length of the copy, yes, it's important, but it won't have a massive impact, because I thoroughly believe as a writer that anything that's written well, as long as it's structured properly and presented properly, will get read. But when it comes to something like a property description, up to 300 words, I would say, and keep the important stuff at the top, but don't worry about it too much. And don't make it boring, don't just make it a list. Try and add some personality into it, because you can add personality into anything. You really can. And you don't need to be the next Oscar Wilde to do it. So yeah.
So focus much more on quality and structure rather than quantity of just dribble.
Yeah, so have that in mind, but definitely go with quality. Yeah, focus on making it interesting as it can be for a property description.
Yeah, I mean, because it is, you do read a lot of things about X number of words for this, X number of words for that. But I think you're right. Somewhere around 300 to 500 words, but well written and well structured is a pretty good, it's a pretty good happy medium for a page like that. Mark, getting back to Damien's comments about link building, what are your thoughts on that? How if first of all, why do I need links on an article that I've written? And secondly, how do I go about doing it properly without getting, black hatted or penalized or whatever the lingo is?
So, I mean, I'll be honest, I don't know much about link building and all that. Damien is the expert on that, but here's a tactic that I did, and it worked really well. We tested it on a client out in Bali, and it's something that anybody can do. And what you're basically doing, and I guess it's link building in a way, but it's what it is using other people's blogs, written blogs, to get people aware of your content and tapping into other people's audiences. And this is a little bit of link building, but it's just something that you can do, because at the end of the day, we're talking about writing content for a website, and that's whether it's your homepage or you're writing a blog. It's same. So this is something that everybody can do, just to sort of, if you want to try an actionable piece of thing that you can take away straight away after this and put into practice. So what you're going to do is, again, think about your customer avatar. Think about, use the tools that Damien suggested. The easiest tool out there is Google. And you're going to think about, number one, what is your property? Who does it serve? And if we're going to go on Neely's nice point of the workation crowds, like professionals. So just imagine that your customer avatar is professionals, workaways. And what you're going to do, you're going to go onto, you can go onto a Google search, and you can type something. Let's just go on the example of maybe Wi-Fi friendly cafes in the area. Because if you're going to get professionals come and stay with you, then obviously again, and we're not talking about lockdowns here, but you're going to talk about places where they can go and have a coffee, do some work in the day before coming back to your property. So what you're going to do, you'll do a search, and what you're going to look for is, you're not going to look for like listings itself, as in TripAdvisor listings or anything like that. What you're going to do is you're going to try and look for other blogs that people have created in your area. Click on that blog. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to read it, obviously make sure it's decent, find who the author is, grab the link, and then what you're going to do is you're going to put that in a note, and then you go away and find 3 to 5 other blogs similar, talking about the same topic. And then what you can do is you can take those 3 to 5 blogs that you found, you can create your own blog post and create your own content around it. But what you're going to do is you're going to mention each blog that you have just discovered in your research. So for example, the title will be whatever it would be, Wi-Fi friendly cafes in insert your location. Then what you will do is, as you're drafting out and putting your blog together, you can mention each individual author and blog that you discovered and link to it. Okay, so what I then do is we create the blog, we post it, we published it, and we have a nice little mention of each one. What I then do is I will go to everybody that we've mentioned and featured, and we'll send them a message on Instagram, or we'll send them an email, or both, and just say, hey, Neely, just to let you know, we've just published this, and we've mentioned your amazing blog. I'm a big fan of it, just to let you know. And that's it. Send that to those people. And what you find is, because you've mentioned somebody, because you've mentioned their hard work, they are then going to go and check it out. And if they check it out, then there's a very, very high chance that they may just retweet or share your blog post to their audience, let them know about it. So it works on a couple of folds. Number one, you're creating content, which is great. You're feeding the beast, you're feeding the Google, getting all that good stuff going. But then you can also start to build relationships in and around your area. And then if they will share that blog post of yours to their audience, then you're tapping into their audience as well. So you'll get more people coming in. So that's something that we did when it's around creating content, building relationships, and again, sharing those links within yours. I know it doesn't directly benefit what Damien will obviously then go on to explain a lot more better than I have about link building, but that's something that we did that's actionable, simple to do, and again, it's a great way of building relationships in your niche and in your area.
All right, I think that's super solid advice, Mark, and the people that are listening, take note of that suggestion on how to organically, build links, within your content. That's really good advice, Mark. Thank you very much. Damien, let's talk links.
I'm just going to expand actually on what Mark said.
Excellent, yeah.
Something that exactly I would do with my clients, and something I would suggest. Massage people's egos. Those bars, restaurants in your local areas. One of the easiest things to do that I find is to write a blog that says the top 10 bars or the top 10 restaurants in your area, and basically mention them, a little paragraph about them with a little link to their site. Reach out to them, say, hey, we've mentioned you in our top 10 restaurants in the area. Just wanted you to know. And directly say to them, hey, if you'd like to link back to this from your site, please do so. you'd be so surprised by how many people will do so, because hey, they're one of the top rated by you in their area. So, or local interviews with important upstanding people in your local area. Really, really simple way to massage egos and make people think, take note and think, yeah, I want to link to this. I want people to see this. And it's not manipulative at all. It's all part of local SEO, and it's a relatively easy tactic, really just expanding a tiny bit on what Mark suggested. But yeah, link building, it's one of the hardest things in SEO, but it is still one of the most important parts of SEO. It's as much as we've changed SEOs over the last 10 years, link building is something that hasn't necessarily changed. And essentially it's like getting a vote, a tick of confidence from another website to yours, to say, hey, I want to link to this site. I must think it's reputable. And search engines pick up on that. And but it's very hard, because obviously you've got very little control over that unless you undertake some black hat, procedures that we've spoken about. So it's really difficult. How can you tell somebody to link to you? You can't. You can try and make it easier, but on the whole, my experience is just creating quality content will naturally result in links, and that's one of the best ways really of doing it. I know we've spoken about the length of ideal content. For me, I know like 200-300 words was mentioned before. I'm much more of an advocate of creating a less amount of publications, but with much greater degree of a word count and of quality content. And I'm talking here about thousands of words as opposed to just hundreds. That works better really than creating several pages of just a couple of hundred pages that are kind of thin in value. So some clients I've worked with, I have told them you need to delete all of these pages, and obviously you see the look of horror in their face when you're telling them delete 50 odd pages. But it's true, it's all about quality in this day and age, and really your website being the most trusted source of expertise and authority in relating to your competition.
That's again, that's really great advice as far as the amount of content, because that is one of those things that we hear time and again. How much should I put on? How much should I put on? And I think that anybody who's dabbled in UX or heat mapping, which is looking at how people go through a website, we all know how far down 90% of the people go on a website, and it's not far beyond the fold line of what people can see. So that's your chance to get your content right, at least to hook them in, and to keep them there, to create that experience of hopefully moving through your website and inevitably purchasing or booking, your property.
Well, sorry, just to jump in there. At the end of it, you got to think about the goal of a website. For us, hospitality owners, we are not looking to start up a Neil Patel blog, you know what I mean, where he writes really long. The whole point of our website, in the most simplistic thing as possible, we want to get them from the website to the booking engine, to putting the booking in as soon as humanly possible. And hospitality websites are maybe different to a lot of other industries out there, because a large amount of the time, and let's not kid ourselves, a large amount of the time, people that are coming to our website will either know us already because it's a repeat booking, or it's a recommendation, or you've done something amazing in SEO. And if you were to ask probably 90% of hospitality owners how you did that, they'll go, I haven't got a clue. I don't know, it's happened, So, and again, the whole point of a website, you've just got to get them to if you can get them to your website, well done. You've cracked it as far as I'm concerned. But the most important thing, when somebody lands on your website, and we're talking about above the fold, which for anybody who doesn't know what above the fold is, the first thing that they see. You've got to make sure straight away that first thing that they see is speaking directly to your customer avatar, your ideal audience. Again, if you're trying to appeal to everybody, you're appealing to nobody. And one of the most common little tag phrases that I see time and time again is "you're home from home." Everybody uses it. Let's just stop using "home from home." It's been and done and used over and over again. All right, let's try and mix it up, whatever you're going to do. But speak to your ideal guest, whoever that may be. And what, like Damien said already, you've got to have a really clear, very clear button, something that they can click where they can then go to your section where they can book with you. And, you know, I know we're speaking on Zeevoo. So obviously everybody's here got a Zeevoo booking engine. So you want to get them to your Zeevoo booking engine and to the Zeevoo book button literally as soon as possible. And then again, if they land on your website and they're not yet there, because there's tons of steps of a booking process, and we can talk about that all day long. It's a total of a conversation. If they're not yet there, you hook them in with their headline, and then you want to get them to keep on scrolling down to find out more and more and more. And then, like David said, hopefully by the time they get to the bottom, they've ticked off all the boxes in their head, they've knocked down any potential barriers, and then they're going to go to your Zeevoo or pick up the phone or whatever they're going to do to complete that booking. That is the whole point of a website, in my opinion.
Yeah, I completely agree, and it's a skill to get somebody to do that. You know, it's all well and good getting people to your site, but it's almost essentially a whole different skill set to get them to do what you want, to get them to click on that button. And you know, if you're going to look down the route of A/B testing, what button works where, what colors work best, etc. You know, that can work different for different kinds of businesses. So it is.
Can I tell you my secret sauce? My secret sauce the last year, and it's the massive difference in terms of getting people to take action on our page. And she's in this audience. I discovered Neely Khan. If you look at any Boostly website that we've put together, Neely has gone in and applied words and amazing copywriting skill, and she's just been the best thing for Boostly. At 100%, absolutely. Unfortunately for everybody in here, she's fully booked. She's oversubscribed. So can't take on, well, unless you might be able to twist her arm, but maybe book her in for 2022. But she's one of the best things, and it all comes back to words. I have never known anybody who is so skilled at words and the meaning behind words and which words follow. I just literally brain dump, and you can tell I just talk until I stop talking. I just brain dump words down. I never realized the skill and the art to it until I met and discovered Neely. So again, you've got the perfect person in this room right now to learn from when it comes to that, getting people to take action.
And I'm going to follow up on this blowing of the trumpet here, but Neely also wrote an epic, quite literally an epic piece for the Book Direct Network this week, which has by far got the most engagement of any content that we had this week. And it's a monster. It's a big old piece, probably what, 1,500 words plus, Neely, I'd imagine, probably even more. But I could see the amount of people who have read the whole thing, or at least stayed on there for 5 or 10 minutes. And that in itself, to keep someone on one page for that long, is a skill. And it's not many people. I don't have it, so it's to be applauded.
Is it out somewhere? This epic piece?
Yeah, let me get it quickly here while we speak, and I'll share it to the group.
Yeah, if you can share it to the chat, I think it's it's really good for us to see samples of something like this in action. I mean, we can, the thing I'm really pleased about is we're talking about a lot of practical things. We're just not talking about how great our kung fu is. We're talking about what can be done to develop our websites, what we can do to build good links, to create good content. So if we can find samples of it, that's really great. I hope you don't mind, Neely.
Oh no, absolutely not.
Great.
So it is a great example, because I know a lot of people. Long form content is fantastic, as Damien has already sort of mentioned, for SEO, long form blog posts, and I feel that it's still a little bit controversial, a little bit taboo, because again, the question is, well, will somebody actually have the time to read this article from beginning to end? But just going back to my, the point I made earlier, anything that's written well, that's structured properly, that's categorized in the right way with the correct sections, with the correct sort of sized paragraphs, with a variety in sentence lengths, with images, with a mix up of bullet points and stories, it will get read, as long as you're actually providing value. And I think the other very, very important thing is, when it comes to something like this, which again I think is often overlooked, is the absolute power of writing with simplicity. And it's quite ironic because, you know, we think about simplistic writing and we think, well, if it's simple, then it's easy. But actually, I think any writer will tell you it's probably one of the most difficult things to do, to write something that's compelling, that's intelligent, but still very simple at the same time. And that is something that definitely comes from practice. So once you've nailed that, and again, there are apps you can use, and there are tools you can use, like I think it's called readability.com, where you can take your content and put it into the platform, and then it tells you what the what the readability rate is of your content, and then you can kind of assess and see how that works too. But I would definitely push long form content. I think it's great, and it's an excellent way of really positioning yourself as an authority in your niche and as an industry leader. And actually, a lot of people don't do it because of complacency, because of laziness, or they just won't push out organic content. So actually, just by doing that, even if you're doing it just twice a month, you're already, you know, standing out from the crowd. And it's, you know, it's just so powerful. So yeah, definitely push that.
That's a really good point. That because there's a time and a place for everything, and we were talking a lot about shorter content, but those were in specific pages that we just want to, you know, to keep the people in that specific area. But if we're writing a very, you know, powerful blog or something like that, you know, go for it. You know, as long as you can, like you said, as long as you can keep it simple, which is, like you said, an art form. I'm not the one to do it, but with practice, I'm sure that people can learn to do it. But yeah, so don't be afraid of, you know, starting long content, but you don't want to put it on every page of the user journey. That's for sure. Right, we're running out of time, and I have so much more to talk about. So we've talked quite a bit about practical measures, what SEO is, link building, content, these kinds of things. I'd like to kind of go back to measuring these kinds of things, and I'd like us to talk a little bit about some of the tools that we can get, you know, from Google, specifically Search Console, analytics. We probably won't have too much time to talk about kind of advanced levels like Tag Manager or Optimize, but Mark, why don't you give us a quick rundown of, are you comfortable with analytics and Search Console?
Depends what the question is.
Yeah, well, here's a softball question for you, Mark. What's the difference between analytics and Search Console? And why should I have them on my website?
Well, let's just go to absolute basics. And
yeah,
there's so many people that I talk to, and I do lots of marketing reviews. One of the main questions that I ask when I'm doing a marketing review is, do you have Google Analytics on your website? And it's either yes, no, or what the hell's Google Analytics? And you'll be amazed at how many people tick the box going, what the hell's Google Analytics? It's you know, and it's, to put it in simple terms, you can have your website. Okay, and I don't care who your website is with, whether it's with Zvu or your WordPress or Wix and Squarespace, you go to all of the trouble of creating a website. You go to all of the trouble of creating amazing long form content like we've just been talking about with Neely. You go to all of the trouble of doing all of the research. But if there's no way for you to measure what's working, what's not working, it's a waste of your time and your money. So in simple terms, Google Analytics tells you how many people are coming to your website every month, where they're going on your website every month, how long they stick around for, and most importantly, which websites are bringing traffic to it. So if you're actually paying for advertising and you go to them at the end of the year and go, Damien, so I'm spending like £1,000 with you, you know, how's it working? And they go, well, I don't know. Do you know? I don't know. Like literally, you might as well just be setting on fire to it. So the most important thing to realize with all of this is that Google Analytics is free. So it's not going to cost you anything. It's easy to link to your website, and it will give you all the most important information. And then from there, you can talk high level and talk about Search Console and meta tags and all of that stuff. I don't get involved. All I look on my dashboard every single day, how many people are coming to my website, compared to last month? How long are they sticking around for? Which again is important for me. And where are they coming from? And that's it in just simplistic terms. And if you want to talk high level and go a bit above, I'm just going to look to my left to the man in Spain with 3 hoodies on and ask him.
2 hoodies. 2 hoodies in Spain. That should be a song. 2 hoodies in Spain. Yeah. So just to recap a couple of Mark's, really good points. Analytics is free. It's dead easy to get up on your website. You should be using it, and you should be looking at it daily. There's no excuse for that. Yes, you can drill down very intensely into areas, but it doesn't have to be that way. There are very basic views that you can have with analytics that can make it more comfortable for you to explore it a little bit more. So it doesn't take a PhD in anything to get your head around it. So the best thing to do is just start with it. So analytics looks at all of the traffic coming from everywhere in the website. Damien, what's the difference between that and Search Console?
Just going to, again, just expand on what Mark said.
Yeah, please.
A lot of people, as well as what Mark said, a lot of people say, yeah, I do have it. And then you say, okay, so how are you getting on? Do you check it? Oh, I've never checked it. I've never done anything with it. Like, oh, you've gone to not only the effort of making this wonderful website, wonderful copy, you've actually gone and integrated, a bit of code and everything in there, and you're not checking it. And I guarantee, most people here, if they're not using it, when you start, you will become a little bit obsessed with it as well. But there's so much data to be, and I know some people will be turned off by data, but even just to find out, not only what Mark has said, but things like, where people are jumping onto your site, what pages they are landing on, where they're leaving your site, how long they're staying on your site, what cities they're coming from. This is an infinite amount of data on there, and it is a little bit addictive when you start. So I would highly recommend everyone, at very least, making sure you have it and check it once every week or two, at least to start off with. Because it's
Damien, what was that blog that you wrote for your own personal website that brought in so much traffic and wasn't it about a bus route in your local area that you wrote about when you were able to track it? But what was that story again?
Yeah, I don't know how you heard about that, Mark.
You told me.
Okay, so again, long-tailed keyword SEO. I did a piece on one of my places here on my place here in Spain, just all about how to local travel, how to get from the airport to the local town here by bus, by taxi, everything like this. That one particular piece gets, I think even still now, a very evergreen post gets about 150 to 200 clicks a day.
Wow.
Because it's an opportunity. It's a massive opportunity that my competitors haven't thought of. Now, granted, they don't all lead to bookings. Very, very few even lead to inquiries. But the traffic is being brought to the site, and some do convert, at least to getting an email address, and you can keep in contact with them. So yeah, but I would have no way of knowing that unless I had Google Analytics installed. So little things like that can turn up some amazing surprises. And with Search Console, yeah, very different. It's more of a way of analyzing. Well, it was originally called Webmaster Tools years back. It was a way of kind of checking for errors and major issues you may have on your site, but it's again become more sophisticated. Way of looking at your mobile experience and core kind of issues that you may have with your site. So again, really important. Very few people will have this installed. It's so important though. But you can also get really amazing insight into search queries where your website appears in the top 10 pages of Google, but you aren't necessarily not necessarily resulting in clicks. But in itself, to know what search queries are out there, you get much more actual data there than you will on analytics. That in itself is real gold, to know how many impressions per month someone is using for a local rental home in Brighton, for example. Little keywords, little differences that you may not have thought of. There's some real gold in there. So I would advise everyone to jump onto Search Console and check it out.
well, just to kind of play my cards with my age, I only started calling it Search Console just the last year. It was always Webmaster Tools to me. Even when they changed the name, I still called it Webmaster Tools. So just to draw the strict line between analytics and Webmaster Tools. So again, analytics, it tells you everything, you know, where traffic is coming from, where it's landing, no matter if it's coming from a social channel, if it's coming from a blog, you know, an associate blog, an email marketing campaign. And Google Search Console is only looking at the organic side of the website and the searches that are involved within Google. That's the I guess the most fundamental difference between them. Right. So we've exhausted. I haven't even gotten through half my questions that I had proposed to you know, that I was given to do this. It was just so much fun. Do we have some questions that have been posed? Who's left from Zivu? Who's supposed to be in the back end? I see Zivu Academy there. Who's got some questions for us?
Hi, David. I don't see any questions, but if anyone is willing to share any questions, please feel free to whether post it in the chat box or even open your mic and talk about it.
That'd be good. Who's brave enough to unmute their microphone? Don't make me pick on people. I know some people in here. Don't make me pick on you and get you to unmute. I can literally, I've got the power to manually unmute you myself. I will.
There's Danielle as well. Danielle has got a question. Ralph's got a question. Come on.
Oh, we've literally given them everything, and we've blown their minds.
Yeah, there's a lot to. I mean, it would be interesting to rewatch this, you know, as a, you know, somebody who's coming into this and looking how to get going with this. I think there's a lot of good sound bites, you know, within this webinar that people are going to be able to go back and forth and, you know, to be able to re-reference again. How about takeaways? Oh, Ralph just came on. Ralph, do you have a question?
Well, yeah, I mean, guys, this has been fascinating, and like you just said, David, it needs rewatching. I mean, there's so much information. I mean, I struggle every time I try and do a blog post or, you know, goose up my descriptions of my apartments. You know, I face all this issue, and probably, as you say, Damien, like the rest of us, I never look at the analytics. They're there, but I'm linked and so on, but I can't remember the last time I looked at it. So makes me think a lot. I mean, I've got to really rewatch this and think about it. But great stuff, guys. And
thank you.
Thank you.
I'm getting ready to plug into Zivu, so it'll be an exciting time.
I'm sure they'll welcome you with open arms, Ralph.
Yes, I get that feeling.
What I would say to you, you know, in terms of data, you know, and in terms of just maybe not necessarily wanting to dive into it, you know, take from it what you will with the Google Analytics, you know, just jump in, even if it's just for a minute or two, just to see, you know, oh, how many clicks or unique clicks did I get this month? Okay, fine. That's enough for me to start off with. And then, you know, you can explore something a little bit more a couple of days down the line. And I promise you, you will be fascinated by the results in due course. And just measuring those little milestones is really exciting, you know, just to see that something's worked. If
yeah.
you a new little piece of content, if you've done a Facebook campaign, you know, anything that you do digitally, just to know it's worked or not, you know, that's equally important to know that if you've wasted a ton of money somewhere. It's important to know.
I know about wasting money.
I think it's also important to note that even though analytics is, you know, it's pulling information from your website, there's nothing you can, well, I can't say nothing, but virtually nothing you can do to screw that up. I mean, click all the buttons, you know, look at all the things, change the date ranges, you know, you're not gonna damage anything. So, you know, the only way to learn with something like that is, one, do the class, which is intense, or two, just start playing with it.
Yeah.
Dip your toe in it, just like Damien said.
Yeah. Well, when we get off this, I'm going to go and play with it.
We've encouraged one anyways to go look at data.
Absolutely.
I would like to, there's something else I wanted to mention, going back to something that Damien was talking about earlier with his blog. And that's, you know, when we're talking about our properties, I think to be very acutely aware of localized SEO, which I know you guys know what I'm saying, but to keep it local, to make sure that we're reaching out to local people, not hitting, you know, for maybe countrywide, or maybe it could even be less than citywide. It can be very community orientated kind of strategy with some of the property descriptions and the swapping of blogs and information, I think is a really good way to start. Yeah,
because at the end of the day, we've got a brick and mortar. You know, it's not like a virtual shop. So you got to think about that as well. And it's, you know, it's a fantastic way of just doing the core thing in business is relationships, building relationships, partnerships. Every business is built on that foundation. You know, end of the day, it's not what we know, it's who we know. It's just how you put that into practice.
And to be honest, if I put the kind of the user's shoes on, if I'm looking for a place, you know, in Spain, you know, where Damien is, I want that kind of local, you know, scenario. I want to know what the bus routes are. I want to know where the best restaurant is. I want to know if I need my haircut, where do I go? You know, these kinds of things. So I think, you know, just making sure that we understand, you know, again, going back to the user avatar, you know, I'm trying to understand what our guests are going to be looking for.
And I'd say activities as well, local activities and local events, really easy things to write about, you know, because you should ideally have the experience to draw upon as well. And also all of those questions your guests ask. You know, our guests tend to ask the same things over and over again. You know, utilize that and actually just get it down on paper. Oh, on your website.
Right. We have one question, and then I know everybody. It's been a long time of talking for everybody and listening as well too. I just have one quick question. This is centered towards Neely, but we can all have a whack at it. Any suggestions on how to make content more story-based, or if it's relevant to make it story-based?
Yes, so again, it would depend on the kind of content that you're creating. So if we go with, say, blog posts and articles, for example, which is, and even your website copy, again, it's probably the easiest types of content to make it story-based. And this is a really good question, actually, because everybody is talking about creating stories for the purpose of their content marketing, but very few people actually offer tangible advice as to how you can take a piece of content and turn it into a story. So, I mean, it's a completely, you know, I can talk about this for a really long time, but I think if I was to round it up into sort of simple tips, it would be very much a case of, first of all, understand, like we've already covered, the audience who you're writing for, and remember that you are placing them as the hero of whatever story it is that you're creating. And the golden rule when it comes to creating stories and storytelling for the purpose of marketing and generating leads and getting more bookings is that your guests are the heroes of the stories that you're telling. So, you know, get creative with it. So basically, so for example, if you're writing a blog post about refurbished properties within your business, instead of writing a standard article about this is what our properties look like before and this is what they look like now, you can be very creative with it and sort of create a piece where you place your ideal guests into a story and you write it in a way where it's literally written in a form of, you take them through that journey and through the experience of them booking in with you as a guest and how it would feel for them to actually experience their stay with you. And then within that, you can talk about your new refurbishments and your features and stuff. And that's actually very easy to do while still maintaining things like important keywords and conversion tactics and things like that. I think a lot of the time, what happens is that when we're creating content, we kind of assume that it has to be written in a certain way because that's the way people have been doing it for so long. For example, with email marketing, you know, so many people who kind of delve into email marketing. And I know Mark is really big on this because he's really big on his email marketing. And actually, I love his emails. But so many people call their emails newsletters. You know, why call it a newsletter? Why not send people little mini stories of your guest experiences within your establishment? It's so much more creative. It's so much more fun. So yes, take heed of the technical aspects, write with clarity and write with cohesion, but don't be afraid to have fun with it. So, you know, and it's all about sort of thinking outside of the box while still being relevant. So again, there are so many things I can say about it, but that's just really sort of kind of really sort of wrapping it up in as few words as possible.
No, it's really good advice, and I think it, you know, you absolutely spot on. You know, making sure that you're giving people a reason to want to read the content. You know, if we think about social media, you know, more people are going to gravitate towards something that's more of a fun kind of story. At least they'll open it and look at it rather than some dry, you know, analytical statement about, you know, I don't know, the degrading, you know, weather patterns in the UK, whatever, you know, that's super boring, by the way.
And
if I could just follow up on what Neil said, actually, the word newsletter has to be the most boring word in digital marketing, at least. Never say on your website, sign up to our newsletter. You will not get one person signing up to it. You know, make it more personal. You know, use some of these phrases that Neil has said. You know, give them something tangible to their experience and as to, you know, why they've come to your site, because yeah, nobody wants a newsletter.
I think as well, just to sort of leave on something that you can do right now, because when you come out of something like this, and there's been so many amazing things that have been said and tactics and all other things, it's really easy to get overwhelmed when you've got so much literally going around in your mind. So one of the most simplest thing that you can remember is success leaves clues. So you can open up a Google search right now and type in a couple of keywords that you would love to be visible for, whatever that may be. You know, really focus to where you are based and focus it in on your niche and see who is ranking on those terms, see who is coming up at the top. And I don't mean, you know, booking.com, Airbnb and all that nonsense. Look at which properties have been able to get there, the independent websites that have been able to get there. Go and see what they are doing and how they structure it and how they're putting it all together, because end of the day, success leaves clues. Instead of trying to reinvent the wheel on something like this, go and see what works. And whatever you do not imitate and copy word for word, because that's the scumbaggest thing that you could do, but get inspiration from it and put it into your tone, into your words. And like Neely say, construct a story around it and put it in your words and put it for your people. It's the simplest thing that you can do right now, that you can do at the end of this call or whenever you're watching this back on the replay.
Yeah, it's super great advice again, Mark. You know, learn from what other people are doing. You know, there's no shame in you know, stalking somebody to see how they've done that, how they've done this. A lot of times when I'm dealing with clients, I ask them, you know, who their biggest competitors are, and it might be somebody that they see is untouchable. Well, even the untouchables, they've invested a lot of time, money, and patience into what they're doing. So by all means, you know, go look at them and try to figure out what they're doing right, and what you could potentially implement into your strategy. And it's the same with this. You know, we're talking about a different scale, but yeah, don't be a scumbag and copy it, but learn on how the experience is and how they're talking about things. So
I would also say, yes, well, don't maybe try and compete with some of these major OTAs on really simple search phrases, you know, like Paris vacation rental, Ralph, or something like that, because you're never going to win. You know, look at a broader, like longer tailed phrase, and, you know, bring in you know, your property type or the kind of guest you're looking for. Try and get those together in search phrases and work on that, because otherwise it can just be really deflating. To almost essentially know I'm never going to rank for that. But, you know, done strategically and, you know, creatively, you really can do well with a bit of effort, but it does require effort. This is the thing with SEO. It does require effort. It does require time. You know, you're not going to see massive results overnight. They will take several months minimum, but it's hugely rewarding when you do actually undertake a good SEO campaign that works.
Changing as well, isn't it, Damien? That's the other thing with it. Would you say that it's because the kind of things that you should be doing are always evolving? It's definitely one of the first things that that I see when I'm looking at SEO and things like that. So yeah,
SEO is certainly always evolving. Yeah, but I mean, the basic premise is the same. It's that you're not manipulating the system. You're publishing quality content, which is something obviously you will testify to. So I think keep that premise in mind and never leave it. That's the core of anything you publish. It's quality and it's of real value to your end user, and always think of the end user. Just try to get to know your end user, and in a way try and forget about yourself and what you expect people to be searching for. Be thinking of your user.
Yeah, and I think that's super important. And I think that we've really, I think hopefully we've beat that into the heads of the people here, that it's all about quality and the end user and speaking their language. And to be brutally honest, if you're trying to manipulate the algorithms read the content. They probably read it better than users do, and they understand it better than users do. So they can tell, if we think we're smart, I can guarantee you that the algorithms that govern Google, Facebook, Bing, they're a lot smarter than we are. So they know if it's from the heart, basically, and if it's speaking to the right people. So there's, as Damien said, there's no shortcuts here. It just takes hard work. But when you see it, and look at analytics, when you see it to start growing in your analytics, it's hugely gratifying, to know that you spent a little bit of extra time doing the research, formatting it properly, making sure that you kept it, in its proper perspective, and it will work. Damien, just one closing question here. So we've talked a little bit about long tail keywords. Explain to us what a long tail keyword is, just in case, I don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah, it's a really good thing. I should have clarified. So short-tailed or short-term keywords, they're generally very short phrases of 1 to 3 words. So if you're looking at, say, Brighton accommodation, for example, it's going to be very hard to rank for, and they can tend to be more informational kind of queries. But whereby if we were to focus in on something which is long tail, essentially longer amount of words in the search query, 4, 5, 6 or whatever, that may include things like pet friendly, may include things like families, or I don't know, workation, whatever. These generally tend to be easier to rank for. They will have less search volume, granted, but they're easier to rank for, less competition, and generally more intent, more user intent, and the likelihood is that you may well get your visitor to actually make a booking with you, inquire, or click that button or whatever it is you want them to do.
So essentially, it's a phrase that encapsulates the primary keyword that we're looking at.
Exactly. Yeah, but just a little bit longer. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Well, everybody, I just want to, I really want to thank our guests, Damien, Mark, and Neely, for taking the time out of their very busy schedules. As we heard from Mark, Neely's completely booked up, so thanks. Thanks for taking the time. I hope the people that attended, got something from it. And again, thanks to Zebu Academy for hosting this, and giving us all a chance to hopefully guide some people a little bit and make it seem a little less daunting. I think so many people get overwhelmed, thinking about, organic search and SEO and these kinds of things, because you can pay thousands and thousands of dollars or pounds or yen or whatever to a company to do it for you. But, they're very simple steps that I hope that we've outlined here, today, that people can get going on, start chipping away at that stone a little bit. And, as Damien said, within a short couple of months, and that's short. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint with SEO. You have to be patient, but it is very gratifying. And the more you do, the more you'll learn as well too. As long as you're analyzing and looking at analytics, Ralph.
Got it.
Or picking on Ralph because you left your camera on so I can see you, Ralph.
No, but well done for coming up, Ralph. You know, it's nice to see you and
Well,
see
it's
45
great.
minutes on our group call. So,
Yeah. I wish Liverpool were doing better.
I will get there.
Yeah.
So again, you will just, we can wrap it up here. I just thank you very much, everybody, for, for your brilliant, knowledge, and again, taking the time out to speak with me and the rest of the team here.